Hey, everybody, it's Nicholas Rogers with the Big Timber Lodge. All are welcome podcast. And we have one of my favorite guests, Cyclops Joe Ray, back at it again. Joe, how the hell you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing really good, really good. And I'm excited to have you on here because, well, my wife and I have been talking. We're going to take a break from having babies because we popped out two in the past 2 years. And
Yeah.
she wants to get into the elk hunting that she purchased her Tika T3X Rough Tech Light rifle for. And we have not put a scope on it. So I'm glad to have you on here. And I want to ask you, since it's January of 2024, what scopes are you excited about that you're going to be able to review this year, or you're hoping to get to review as far as, let's say, budget scopes, tactical scopes, and also hunting scopes? Take it away.
Well, budget scopes, man. There's a couple that are coming, and they're actually launching them at SHOT Show. At the time we're doing this, it's about a week before, so I can't really talk about them, non-disclosure stuff. But there's a couple of budget precision things coming that I think are going to be real nice, man. And I'm real excited to see them. I've seen pictures of one of them. One of them I've already tested and returned it. But like I say, with the non-disclosure, you don't want to be the one that opens your mouth early about something coming. You know, that's a big part of SHOT, them being able to launch their own thing.
Right.
But somebody let the cat out of the bag. Well, I don't know. It's been about 3 weeks now. The Leupold Mark IV. I'm interested in seeing it because it's not the old Leupold Mark IV. I've had those before too, but this is a whole new scope line, and I'm really excited to see it. And then I've got a Vortex Razor Gen 3. I'm excited to test it, and I've got I think I've got two more Burrises and another Leupold, and I think another Steiner in the closet that I need to get filmed up. And
Oh, wow.
I very rarely do things in chronological order, man. I very rarely have one video that I shoot, edit, and upload. Normally, I have about 5 to 6 videos on my, I say computer, my iPad. I don't own a computer. I do everything on an iPad, but I'll have 5 or 6 pieces of videos, and then I'll get, I might shoot the talking head. Well, I did one that released this last Saturday, and it was a talking head about the 5 best hunting scopes. And everybody's asking me, man, where was it green and that pretty? And it's like, man, I filmed the intro to that about 3 months ago. I just hadn't got around to finishing up the video. So I shoot in pieces. I have it. I used to go in chronological order, man, but it's so inefficient. And I really figured out why the studios, you hear like they built that one set. They filmed it. Everybody's scene was done on that set. Then they just tore it down. And I'm the same way, man. I go out to the range and I get like all the scope footage. I'll get it on one day and catch a real pretty day. And I might film 3 or 4 parts of the scope footage, then do the voiceover later, the intro later, and then I may get all of it done and then save it. It may be 2 or 3 weeks before I ever do the finish up putting the graphics and stuff on it, because I spend it may not show in my videos, but I spend a lot of time editing. And but I'm excited about those. Like I say, there's damn, I almost said it out loud. There's a scope company that's coming out with an entire new line. So I'm real excited about it. And I've spoke to them directly, and they were telling me a little bit about it. And I didn't want to tell them too much, because if you're in a position I'm in and you do a lot of scope videos, if you let the cat out of the bag, it's like, okay, next time, don't tell him. So on a lot of this stuff, like I know there's some new stuff coming from several different companies, and some of the sales reps and, the guys design it and stuff would start telling me about it. I just stop them right there, man, don't tell me. Just don't even tell me. Because if you get out, it wasn't me. If
Right.
I didn't know about it, I can't tell you, I couldn't be the one that let the cat out of the bag. But I'm going to try one of the new Meopta precision scopes. I'm going to try one of the new, the Zeiss, some of their long-range precision stuff. And I'm trying to really focus, man, about the last probably 8 or 10 videos that I've done. The scope's going anywhere from about $300 up to $1,000, and I'm trying to really stay in that part of the market best I can, because that's where the majority of the sales are. That's where guys are the most interested. Don't get me wrong, I love doing tier 1 type optics, but there's very few guys that can afford $3,000 scopes. So when I get a chance to do it,
Right.
it's fun and it's great. And yeah, they're all that. But for me, it's kind of like, yeah, man, I'd love to see what the new top of the line Mercedes SUV looks like, but I can't afford it, so I'm not going to waste my time on YouTube. So, like I say, I'm trying to stay kind of on point, staying more. And for some guys, $500 is not an affordable scope. I realize it's $500, but if it's something that you're going to buy and it's not, and it's something that, like you're talking about an elk hunt, there's guys that have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars tied up in some of these hunts, and then they'll skimp out and put a $200 scope on it. It's maybe now's not the time to save money. And it's kind of like having a real high performance car and you didn't buy very good tires. It's like, well, why?
Right.
Well,
let me that I don't want to like segue too far out of this because I'm enjoying what you're saying, but let me ask you, because I have heard, and I don't know necessarily if I agree with it, but I've heard like the amount of money that you pay for a hunting rifle is the amount of money you should pay for the optics that go on it. Have you ever heard that? Is there some truth to that, or is that just kind of an old wives' tale?
It's kind of one of these, just these little sayings that got started. Probably, honestly, for me, on most of my rifles, I've got a few that the guns are significantly more expensive. My Rim X is a good example. I mean, it was like $3,500. Well, I don't have a $3,500 scope laying around. So, that the cost of the rifle is way higher than the scope. But like on my Anschutz, I've got a Leupold target sitting on top of it. It's probably about a $1,400 rifle. It's about a $1,400 scope. So I just
Wow.
try to match, kind of stay in that realm. But then I've got like my dad's old 30-06 Enfield. I mean, you know, 20 years ago, you could pick one of those things up for 150, $200, and it's rough like that. But that's what I hog hunt with, and it's got a $1,200 callus on top of it. So
Oh, wow.
we hog hunt without lights. There's no lights. We shoot them under the moonlight. So, and sometimes we'll have these small LED lights on the feeder, but the majority of the time we hunt them in coastal fields, and the black hogs, they just stand out like a sore thumb. And because that thing has such incredible optics, like I say, all it takes is moonlight. And you can throw it up, and I mean, you can tell if he's got spots on him. It's scary optics, but that's what I picked
Oh, wow.
up. So, I've got, like I say, $1,200, $1,300 scopes sitting on top of $200 guns. But then I have, I've got some, I've got a Steyr 308 that's got a used Meopta 6x42 that I picked up at a gun show for about $300. And that Steyr
Oh,
is
wow.
$1,500 rifle. So, it
Yeah.
just, man, a lot of it, if it's something like if you're elk hunting, I've been lucky enough to do that, where the difference between when you see the animals and when it actually is dark, a lot of times, man, it's a very, very short period of time. And you want the best glass you can get, especially if you're talking about knocking down a 1,000-pound animal or upwards and having to pack that thing out. You don't want to shoot him and realize, oh, man, I shot the spy. You got a lot of work and time in it, and that's where the money in the optics really pays off, man. For me, it does for the precision shooters too, but for hunting, precision shooters, if you've got a good, reliable optic and you can see everything, you can see your misses, I think that's good enough for precision shooters. I may be way wrong, but I think that's good enough. With hunting, I don't think there's any such thing as it's too good. I've never seen a scope that I thought that's too good, so.
That's
Like,
a very good point.
But then
And I guess too, it's like if you're going to do, especially like, let's say somebody like yourself that lives in Texas, and if you get a chance to go and do some hunting, some elk hunting, let's say in Colorado, Montana, or Idaho, that's not something that you're getting to do every single year. And so you want to make sure if you do get the opportunity to take an elk, you've got the gear that's going to allow you to do it.
right.
I think there probably is like a threshold though with necessity versus overabundance of quality and what
Yep.
type of gear that you probably need to have. Like I've got good.
There's a price point in optics of diminishing returns. There really is. If you're interested in building a sports car, say you've got a '69 Camaro and you want to hop it up. Okay. The difference between a 400 horsepower car that'll run into 12s or 13s and a 10-second car is 10 times the money, and it's not going to be reliable, with optics on, especially we're talking about rifle scopes. With rifle scopes, at around $500, you can get a pretty reliable precision scope. There's only one or two out there. The Arkin is by far the biggest seller for a reason. You can get a pretty decent hunting scope. You can pick up something like a low power Miopta, maybe a Leupold Mark III, something like that. At $1,000, you can get some good glass. That's where you can start getting into the lower end Swarovski, Zeiss, the more upscale Miopta stuff, Tract, GPO, all of those at around $1,000. At $1,500, you can get good, reliable, repeatable tracking with good glass. It takes about $1,500 to get a scope that's like, okay, this will do everything well. It's not lacking anywhere. Now, don't get me wrong. The difference between a $1,500 Toric or a $1,500 GPO or one of these others that are 4.5 to 27, 28, there's a lot of them that are very similar. And something like a Zero Compromise or something like a Tangent Theta, it is a whole different league. But to get to that next league, man, it's twice as much. Or three
Interesting.
times or four. Like a Tangent Theta is about $6,000.
Damn, holy shit.
If you've ever looked up like Leupold Mark VIII, some of those get up in that price range. Zero Compromises. I mean, these things are thousands and thousands of dollars, but a lot of that stuff is true military spec stuff. It's what they give, the sniper. Right. It's what the SWAT guys have. It's the best of the best.
Well, yeah, that brings up a whole other category too, because like I've got a Steiner tactical scope that's relatively older. It's probably about 13, 14 years old. Back before Steiner was making anything in the US, it was a legit German Steiner glass and whatnot. Right. And then I've got like a Night Force Attacker and now but I will be honest, the glass in that Steiner is superior than the glass that's in the Night Force, but that Night Force is built like a goddamn tank. I could literally throw that on the pavement and drive my truck over it, and it's going to work. Right. And the Steiner is technically a tactical scope, but it does not feel as bulletproof as that Night Force does. And I think that's a whole other, we could get into, the difference between a good hunting scope, what makes a good hunting scope, what makes a good bench rest scope, what makes a good, tactical scope, because those three things are very different in the world of optics. Now let me do this though, because, I got you on here and I'm going to use you a little bit because I really value your thoughts. So if my wife has purchased a Tika T3X Rough Tech Light to do Rocky Mountain elk and Rocky Mountain mule deer hunting with, she's not somebody that wants to collect a whole bunch of guns. So she wants to make sure that the scope that she gets on it is a quality optic that's going to stand the test of time, in the sense of she's not going to use it and then be like, you know what, this kind of sucks. What would be some variety of options that you would recommend that we look at for that type of ordeal?
Well, I'm blessed on my channel because I don't have to pay for optics anymore. They donate them to my channel before I test them, and now I don't get paid ahead of time, but I don't pay for them. So I do about one scope video a week, and I've been doing it for about 7 years now. So as you can imagine, I've had a lot of scopes come to my address. Every optic on every gun that I hunt with is one of these. It's either a Zeiss, it's a Miopta, it's a Swarovski, it's a Tract. I know I'm leaving somebody else out that's in the affordable good glass.
What about Leupold?
I've got a couple of Leupolds. I've got a Ford or 3.5. I think it's 3.5 to 10, and I think it was an old VX3 that has the AO on the front of it. That's a good one. And but I don't hunt with illuminated reticles. I mean, a lot of the scopes have them, but I don't use them. And but because we do hunt at night, man, when you're hunting out there with no light, if you turn the illumination on, almost no scope, the illumination is low enough when you're not hunting with a light that it's not going to night blind you. If you turn the illumination on, you can't see the animal.
Right, right. The only time that I've ever been able to hunt with a scope that had illumination and it was damn near dark was where it's just a single dot in the middle. Because even like with my Night Force Attacker, it's got like a somewhat of a Christmas tree in it, that Horus reticle. You turn that on when it's dark outside, you get so much light contamination in that scope, even at the lowest setting. It's almost unusable. You know what I mean?
That's what I tell guys a lot. I've got some LPVO scopes, and for those, I like daylight bright. Primary Arms makes a real good one. Burris makes a real good one, that RT6 combo. But for hunting scopes, I tell guys, if you go into the sporting goods store and it's lit like this is here, and you turn it on and the illumination, wow, look at the illumination, it's too bright. Even on lowest setting, it's going to be too bright. It's almost impossible to make something that'll go from pure dark up to daylight bright in the $1,500 range. Okay, some of the really expensive stuff will do it. All the Mioptas do it. All the GPOs will do it. They have that kind of infinite adjustment, and they go all the way from black all the way to daylight bright. But it's expensive to add those. The Valdotas do too, but then again, you're talking about a different class of optic. But that's the reason I'm so high on those. And but there's several budget scope lines that are good for repeatable shooting, but there's others, man, that I haven't had any luck with. As a matter of fact, I'm making a video. I've already shot it. I just haven't uploaded it yet, about the 6-hour whiskey 4s and whiskey 3s. And on the side focus, they say to go to 50 yards. Well, I got 2 of them. One of them will go all the way to right at 50, no closer. The other one stopped out at about 58, 59 yards. I went to a sporting goods store when I was visiting a relative, and I was lucky enough for one of the guys there at the store recognized me. And I asked him, could I take a couple of them outside? I had my rangefinder and had my portable fixture, and I test them to see if they'll go down to 50 yards. Neither one of those would. They wouldn't go down to 50 yards. One of them was like 61, the other one was 63. And I had a buddy with me, and I was having him back out till I got the parallax out of it. And to me, it's not a big deal if it's a 75-yard parallax, but don't put 50 on it, because there's people that have ranges that they're going to be shooting 50 yards, but it's a lie. It won't go to 50 yards. On the other hand of it, there's Leupold's that say 50 yards on it for minimum, and I've had a ton of those that'll go all the way down to 25. It's they leave room for error either way. The SIGs, man, I'm really disappointed in that, man. I'm a big fan of their whiskey 3 introductory scopes. Like, you can pick them up at the gun shop. It's about $150, and I'm a big fan of that little scope. But the mid-range SIG stuff, man, that's that right there really burnt me, man. And I know what brought it to my attention, I noticed it when I tested, and then I had a couple of guys reach out to me and tell me that theirs wouldn't parallax down. And I thought, oh, wow, this is something. And one of the guys told me they had reached out to SIG. So this is something that's been going on for a while, and they haven't addressed it. And because I don't have, nobody's paying me up front, I can tell guys, hey, man, I'm not trying to burn them down or anything. But it's like, this particular scope line, don't rely on that. If you need it to actually go to 50, I wouldn't buy one. I wouldn't.
So that definitely would not be a good rimfire scope or an air rifle scope then.
No, yeah, it'd be fine. Deer rifle scope, you're going to shoot 100 yards, or you're not.
I'm not deer rifle, air rifle. I meant air rifle.
Oh, no. And see, a lot of guys, my channel started as an air rifle channel. So a lot of the guys that watch it are watching for the videos where the scope will parallax down at lower distance. And because I'm real aware of that, because I am an air rifle shooter, when I run into that, it's like, this is not right, man. Nobody cares if it's a 75-yard parallax is the minimum, but put that on the scope. Don't, you're kind of bait and switching these guys.
Right.
And for a lot of guys, man, I mean, a hell of a lot of guys, you buy $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 scope, and you bought it for one thing. Like if it were me on my air rifle, I've got a target in my backyard at 38 yards. And if I bought it, it had a 25-yard parallax. I know it'll go that low, but it didn't. I'd be having a screaming fit. you know.
Right. And that's, and it's interesting that you're bringing up the parallax so much because out here in Colorado, it's not as big of a deal to have the adjustable parallax when you're out hunting, right?
Right,
Because a lot of the Rocky Mountain shots that you're taking are going to be 200, 300, 400 yards on an
right,
animal. But like when I was a kid or younger, I grew up in New Hampshire. That's where I bought my first rifle. And if you've ever been in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, I mean, that shit's so thick, you
yeah.
can't see daylight through the trees. It's
That's
that type of thick. Yeah. And so that adjustable parallax was huge because you usually had it set down to like 35, 40 yards because that was usually going to be about your max range.
yeah,
You would try to do some stock hunting, and find a place that you could actually get in the field and see for like 150 yards, if that. But typically you were in such thick timber, you were out there with the 30-30 using something with a very low parallax just to try to get it. So I have a Burris scope. It's their top of the line Burris scope. It's on my Bagara B14 HMR, and it does have a good adjustable parallax. But I will be honest, the adjustments on the parallax do not line up with the numbers. So you have to, you can't lay something and be like, oh, I'm 100 yards. You have to look through the scope and then actually adjust the parallax to get it focused on where you need to be.
yeah.
You
Well,
can't
most
use
times,
the numbers.
as time is moving forward, less and less scopes are going to have a number on them. And everybody's eyes are different, but most of the time, not always, but on most scopes, if the parallax lines don't line up, there's 3 screws. You can take that off, turn it to where you want it, and then reinstall it to make it line up. But the parallax, when they're checking stuff at the factory, they give it a look, but they're wanting to make sure that it's tracking, that it's not binding and stuff like that. And especially on the budget stuff, a lot of the budget scopes don't line up,
Right.
but a lot of the upper end scopes, Zeiss, I think they've totally done away with it now, and with the numbers on it. A lot of the new Leupold's don't have any numbers on them. They just have a scale that goes like from kind of like on your windshield wiper thing, where it's got the little small, and opens up to big and little dashes in between. That's the way they look, and because a lot of times, and I side with the scope makers on this. There's too many guys that go out there. Okay, this doesn't line up. It doesn't parallax. Okay, the scope's fine, but the numbers
Right.
don't line up. And they'll send these scopes back to the factory. They've mounted them. They put rings on them and tighten them down. And they'll come back to the factory. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the scope. It's just the numbers didn't line up. And maybe they didn't line up for that particular guy, but they might line up for somebody else. Well, now the factory off up a brand new scope, and they're going to have to take this thing. And there's nothing they can do with it. They can give it away. A lot of times, some of the scopes I give away on my channel are like that. They came back to the factory. There was really nothing wrong with them. And they'll reach out to different people and have giveaways. And a lot of the companies, man, I don't want to say it because it's not my place to say it, but I know 2 or 3 men that when they get returns in like that, they donate them to veterans and police departments and Boy Scouts and stuff like that. They do it without any fanfare.
Wow,
And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but a lot of them do that, man.
That's cool. And guilty as charged, because I'm literally one of those guys. I didn't send it back. I was just like, hey, like when I'm at 100 yards, if I have it set to like 100, it's not quite in focus, and I got to have it at like 80 or some weird thing like that. It's like off by a little bit, but it's not. I can still get it in focus, but it just doesn't line up with the numbers. So that's good to know that that's not a flaw in the scope. It's just a flaw with my eye, but it still works. I'm not sending it back.
It wouldn't sit on there in the perfect place, but it's still tightened up. But if anybody's listening to this, or next time you think about it, there's no shooting discipline I know of that's more reliant on getting the parallax into focus on the exact, because it's not always the focus and parallax don't sync up. It may be parallax free, but then you may have to turn it a little bit to get it focused as sharp, and now it's not parallax free. On a lot of budget scopes you have to pick. What I normally do is I'll pick parallax free, but it's irritating that it's not as razor sharp as I know it can get. But it's just, it's a budget scope. Not everything's going to work perfectly. You have to make compromises. There's no shooting discipline I know that's more reliant on that than field target airgun shooters. Okay. And the reason is, if you'll ever see a field target gun, they've got a huge, like butterfly looking wheel on the side of it. and they'll tape it and put their own markings. The reason is they're having to range the target because of the drop of the pellet. So they use the focus and parallax as their rangefinder. So it needs to be super, super critical sharp. And they have an oversized wheel. So then instead of looking at a scale this big, they've got a scale that long that goes around that wheel so they can be more precise. And on most of the field target guys I know, if they're serious field target guys, pretty much if there's any way they can afford it, and it's not there may be some classes where you can't do it, but pretty much that's where it's like it's $1,500 and up scopes. It's not, and they're always something like a 5 to 50, and it'll have a very narrow field of view. So if you dial it for say 50 yards, at 60 yards it's going to look fuzzy. At 40 yards it's going to look fuzzy. They want the depth of field to be very, very narrow so that they can use it to range more accurately. And a good example, Falcon has 2 scopes. I'm sure there's other companies that are the same. And they're either 5 to 50 or 10 to 50. I've tested them. I just can't remember. They've got one that has a very deep field of view. That's what most people are used to seeing. And then they have a field target scope. And I mean, literally, the difference between me and the camera, which is just over arm lengths away from me, out to about 60 yards, you can see a difference in the focus. Man, it's that focus critical, but it's designed like that for a reason.
Wow.
If you gave it to an average shooter, it's like, this is worthless.
Right.
You know, you go out there and look at a field like 100-yard range, and there's one very narrow strip that is in focus. Everything in front of, everything behind it is out of focus. But for that shooting discipline, that's important. You know,
Wow.
but when it comes to regular hunting, like my actual hunting rifles, you know, deer hunt, hog hunt, that kind of stuff, none of those have parallax on them. I just hunt.
Okay.
I don't even use it. Now, on my prairie dog rifles, they do, but on my regular big game rifles, I don't even use parallax.
Okay. Now, are you a second focal plane or a first focal plane for hunting?
Hunting, second focal plane all the way.
Okay.
I don't put any first. Well, I'll take it back. I've got a Collis 3 to 9, or is this Swarovski 3 to 9? That's a first focal plane, but it's a European first focal plane, which means when you turn it up to 9 power, the reticle looks like 2 fence posts with, a pool cue laying across it. It's that thick, you know, because they hunt in the dark too. They hunt dark timber and stuff. So, but it's not like an American precision first focal plane because, you know, the majority of them, especially for guys my age, you know, if you take a 4.5 to 30 and its first focal plane, it's a true precision scope with a thinner reticle. Below 10 power, it's useless. I mean, they might as well just go 10 to 30. You can't
Right. That is where I find, like with the LPVO, it is good to have that illuminated reticle, especially if you have like a 1 to 10 and you have it down at 1. The only way you're going to see anything in that reticle is if it's illuminated, and then it's just like a fire dot.
Yeah. Well, the best one I've seen lately, and Primary Arms they got some really good LPVOs. I'm a big fan of their LPVOs. But one of the really interesting ones that I saw here lately, and I've already done the video, I just haven't released the video yet. I'm normally several weeks or a couple of months ahead on my videos before they release. But I did one for Arkin, and I hate to just keep bringing up one brand, but I did one for them, and they have it's a first focal plane, but halfway through the reticle, there's an illuminated circle, and then there's the little horseshoe chevron thing in the middle. So even if you turn the power all the way down, the outer circle shrinks down, and it probably covers, I'd say at 100 yards, maybe 20 inches, something like that. But if you were just going center of man, no matter what magnification, you can use it. You know, if you're just shooting deer, you can use it because it'll bring your eye right to the center, and even if it's not illuminated. And it's thick, it's real purpose built like that. And the Burris RT6 is that's another LPVO, man. I'm real high on for what you get and what you spend. I'm a real big fan of that.
Right. Now, let me ask this then. When do you like a clean reticle, and when do you like a busy reticle, or do you not like either one?
I like my favorite reticle, man, honestly, is the SWFA Mill reticle. Of all the reticles out there, and I've seen them all, the SWFA Mill is probably my favorite. Now, there's a lot of them that are very, very similar. It's just a a regular crosshair with either MOA or mil hash marks going up and down, and maybe one floater, say maybe around 2 or 3 MOA or mil off to each side, just one floating dot. But something like a Horus reticle, and I've used them. And granted, I'm not a professional sniper or nothing like that, but they're so busy. It's clutter. It's visual clutter, and guys that have spent a lot of time, I mean, like hours in a day looking through a scope. Me and my buddies will go out to our local range, and we've got a rimfire range that goes out to 350 yards. And I mean, we're shooting at dirt clods, grasshoppers. You know, literally sit there and go and shoot up a brick at 22 shells, and you're in the scope a lot. And something that has a lot of visual clutter, like a Horus or a lot of the real busy ones, they bug me, man. After a while, it's like I'm getting a headache, man. I feel like I'm trying to look through a bunch of, I feel like I'm trying to read a newspaper through a screen door or something, man. It's really distracting. But I do like a floating center dot. Regardless of what it is, I like a floating center dot. My favorite bench rest reticle is the Leupold CPC. It starts off on the edges. It's real thick, and it tapers down to nothing. And then it's like a floating dot right in the center of it. That's my favorite bench rest reticle. And
I've got the US Optic 3 to 12 on my 22, and that's got a floating center dot, and I absolutely love that. Just love that. I know what you're talking about. Now, when I was in the military, I used to use like the Milradian scopes with the Horus reticle, and we learned how to do range evaluations based off of target size in relation to the mil dots inside of the reticle. And you could actually, say, hey, if the average man is 5'10", this is how big they should be inside of your reticle at this range. And so you could get a good guesstimate if you could do the math in your head fast enough on how far away somebody was. And I even tried to learn how to do it with like elk and deer, but it wasn't as successful because a lot of times that you come up on them, it's not as you're at like either an angle and you can't get a good visual measurement or they're laying down. So it wasn't effective.
Something for me, because the only real long distance shooting I've done, and I mean, we used to do it a lot. I mean, we'd go for 4 or 5 days at a time. We'd go 5 or 6 times a year to go prairie dog hunting. And we would literally go through thousands of rounds. This is before COVID, before, ammo was $1 a round, and we reloaded and everything. But you would spend, maybe in a daylight, from daylight to dark, you might be behind that scope 5-6 hours, taking breaks and stuff like that. But when you're doing that, like I say, the visual clutter starts getting to you. But to your point about the first focal plane, something that I noticed real easily when I would take a scope, and normally I would shoot anywhere between about 10 to 12 power. But if I turned the scope up to 20 power, even though the scale is going to remain the same, the mirage is going to look so much heavier that it makes me think it's further than it is. So what I ended up doing when we were doing it so much is I had night forces. I had some Burrises, some cheap scopes, but I had night forces, Saborskis, and stuff like that. I shot everything on 10 power. That way, regardless of the situation, I was same sight picture. And the other guys got to where they were doing it too, because we want to shoot everybody else's gun. I want to see what the 257 Weatherby does way out there, And pretty much all of us got to where we would shoot on about 10 to 12 power. And every once in a while, especially on some of the really accurate rifles, we were blessed. We had some of those PPC rifles, and they're terrifying. But, we would have something out there like 200 yards, and we're like trying to put it right directly in his eye and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Other than that, it's pretty much just 10 powers, put it on the prairie dog and pull the trigger.
Yeah. Oh, man. I love prairie dog hunting. It's something that I love doing out here in Colorado. And I love it. I try to challenge myself because I bring my 22 long rifle out with the suppressor on it, and I have it zeroed in at 75 yards, and I'll bring out a laser rangefinder, and I know where to do like holds at, and it's especially out here in like Colorado when I get east of the Front Range, man, the wind starts whipping, and it'll be 15, 20 mile an hour winds. And because I got the suppressor on it, and I've got footage, y'all just don't get to see the footage of me taking 4 or 5 shots just to hit a prairie dog, at like 90 yards when the wind's blowing at 20 miles an hour and it's a crosswind. But the crazy part is, because I'm using a suppressor and the wind's going so hard, it's just like doof, doof, and that prairie dog doesn't even realize there's a bullet coming towards it. And then finally I'll hit it, and then I'm like, and then that's what you get to see, is that one shot. You don't get to see all the other stuff going on.
It's amazing how much the wind moves it, man. And the first time I took a buddy of mine up there, and this guy's a good shooter, but he shoots around here. He shoots bench rests and air guns and stuff. And the first time I took him prairie dog hunting, and he shot 92 times before he hit one. Now, we brought portable benches. I'm talking about heavy benches. Big, heavy rest. I had a big heart front rest and everything else, man. We took it serious. We wasn't out there, we were trying to kill them by the gajillions.
Right.
But, we wanted a high hit to miss ratio, And like I say, that guy missed 92 times, and he's over there he's having a fit.
Yeah.
And he had custom 2250, man, and he was going nuts. And I told him, I said, man, where are you aiming? He said, I'm aiming right at him. And I told him, dude, this is prairie dog hunting. You can't aim at them. No. You have to when, we're shooting 300 yards, it's a 20 mile an hour cross in. You can't aim at anything. You have to come off of it. Yeah. And after I'd been about 15 or 20 times, because we would dial to it, we would just, use the marks in it. And but by the time I'd been about 15 or 20 times, if something popped up out there about maybe 150, 200, 300 yards, and the wind wasn't blowing and I was actually able to aim right at him, it was unsettling, because it's like, I'm not supposed to aim at him. I'm supposed to
throws you off.
Because you get so used to it.
Right.
And, but, oh, yeah, man, I got a lot of good memories, man. Me and one of my family members and 2 buddies, man, we used to go there all the time, man. It was a hell of a lot of fun, man.
Man, that's just classic fun right there. The prairie dog hunting. That's, we were talking about earlier today that I'm looking at some property down in southern Colorado. And one of the things, my wife doesn't know it, but it's got to have prairie dogs on the property. Oh, yeah. If we're buying that much land on the Front Range or outside the Front Range, it's got to have prairie dogs. And
guys, you'll see these little memes like, if I ever hit the lottery, I'm not going to tell anybody, but there'll be signs. It'll show a driveway with all these exotic cars. I guarantee you, man, if my YouTube ever blows up and just becomes a gigantic channel bringing in all this money, I'm going to have 2 things: a piece of property with prairie dogs and a midget. I'll give it to him. I'm a renter by the week. I'm a time midget. I won't have dang it, man. You can, I'm serious, man. If you meet somebody, we were in Utah. This has been about 3 years ago. We were up in Utah. Right as we got into town, this little beautiful Latino midget comes into the store. I was in there getting gas, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and she was a stripper. Well, she came into the store, man, and I'm over there talking to her, and I told her, she said, she heard me talk, and she's like, I sound unusual even by Texas standards, but up there, it's like, holy crap, where's he from, And anyway, we're sitting there, and I told her we're having a house party, and if you'll come, we'll give you $100 up front just to come. Just, you ain't got to dance. Just come hang out.
Just come hang out, yeah.
Yeah, and the guys are like, are you insane, man? And I said, no, we're going to pay that, And anyway, one of the guys I was staying with, he's like, man, that's $100 just to have her come over. I said, yeah, dude, have y'all ever rented midgets? And I said, dude, man, midgets are high as hell to rent. I ain't lying to you, dude. There's a site called Rent a Midget, and we've done it. I mean, if they had an app, it'd be on my phone, man. But you can rent, they'll come over and wrestle, man. You can do the Velcro, pick them up against the wall, man. And it's a blast, man. It's a blast, dude. I love the midget, man. But it's high, man. You want a midget girl to come to the party and man, it's gonna be, it's gonna be $300, $400, $500. I'm not the only one out there with a midget fetish, man. And the make money, man. There, where I live, we have Brookshire's Grocery Companies. It's the grocery stores here. I literally am in the middle of three. There's three, and they're each about 12 minutes apart. One of them has a midget that works there. Little old cute blonde-haired midget. I can't tell you what the other two even have in stock anymore. I'm headed to the midget store every time. Every time. Oh, dude, I love them, man. I ain't shitting you, man. We went to where was we at? I don't remember. I think it was the NRA show. I like the NRA event. But anyway, I'm not big NRA. I don't mean it like that. I just show this on. So anyway, we're at the NRA show, and there was a little midget dude there. Well, he comes walking up, and he says, "Hey, aren't you Joe Cyclops?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, I turned around, man, and I'm looking down on this little fucker, you know. And he's looking up. He said, "Man, do you mind if I get a picture with you?" Dude, I ain't shitting you. I filled up my Google storage with pictures of man. I got pictures of me and the midget sitting there with our shirts off, tweaking each other's nipples and shit. In the middle of the NRA show, with my fat ass and his little bit shirts off, tweaking each other's nipples to get pictures, man. I love a midget, man. I love them little fuckers, man. Oh, you ever been to a midget wrestling match?
Oh, I've seen some stuff at Sturgis. Yeah,
it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
What was it? I think it was 2020. It was either 2020 or 2020, or it might have been 2019. I was there, and I was at a campground. I won't say the name because I don't want them to get in trouble. But they had you could pay to do midget bowling, and you paid them, and you got the. It looks like Wolf of Wall Street.
You know, we're getting like, you're about these little towns that get an actual stoplight. Yeah,
right.
No, we're just now getting midgets in this part of the world, you know. And, East Texas is better for it, you know.
Right.
But, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I love
it.
All
right. So I do want to go back to. I hate to pry off this conversation topic.
Hard to clear off this shit now.
Right. Yeah. I know. But I want to go back to the hunting scope topics really quick. So you listed off a long list of scopes that you would recommend for hunting. And I got to say, one of the things that I noticed about that was they were all well-known brands. You weren't naming stuff that's from China, the Philippines, stuff that you find on eBay or Amazon. You know, it's not like an NG Star or something like that. You're not BSA or something like that. So, yes.
German Precision Optics is a fairly new brand to American guys, but the guys running it, there's two. There's GPO USA and there's GPO like Maven, Zeiss. There's two different branches of it. And because the scopes that are popular here in the States are not necessarily popular in Europe and the rest of the world. So, but same company, but like GPO, that was the president of Zeiss, and the president of Zeiss USA are the ones that run GPO. And this guy was also, like one of the head engineers for Swarovski and Collis. So these guys came from a pedigree. The guys that the guys that on track, John Allen and John LaCourte, man, I'm real lucky that I'm able to call them friends. But those guys both came from Nikon. You know, a lot of these upstart companies, you know, are just a couple of goobers sitting around and, you know, realize they can go to China and build some cheap scopes and try to make some money. But the really good ones, man, like I say, Track, GPO, guys from Athlon, man, that's another really good group. And most of these guys came up through the scope industry or the optics industry, you know, and the guys that are in the know, that start an optics company, they've got a leg up on everybody, man. They know the suppliers. They can get their orders slotted. And like most manufacturers, there's only so many places that are actually making scopes and then making specs. But they can only get, you know, depending on what the size of your company, the size of your order, you get slotted in this spot in the assembly line. There's a lot of assembly lines. They're big facilities. But if the guys that already have friends there, that already have contacts there, they can get, sometimes, I'm not saying it's always the case, but sometimes they can get a little better deal. They can get instead of having, say it's X amount of dollars to spend on this particular optic, if they already have relationships with these guys that go back years or decades, these guys are able to get for the same amount of money, maybe something a little better. Maybe they move to this line where it's the more experienced guys. You know, it's like everything else. You start, and a lot of scope companies, man, Athlons, I just got to mention them. When they first started, Vortex was the same way. If you bought one of the first Vortexes, it went back. You know, and Athlon was the same way. You know, everybody has growing pains. You know, but,
right. I have a Vortex. You know, we've had discussions about Vortex as a company and the quality control issues that they have with their scopes. And it really depends on the tier level of what you're buying. Like I have a Vortex Razor HD LHT, I think is what it is, lightweight hunting tactical, and it's like a 3 to 15. But it's damn good scope. I mean, it's on my Weatherby for my elk hunting. Now I ended up having to lap my scope rings for that scope because I have some aluminum scope rings that I guess the Vortex told me. They said, dude, we put this on one of our scope mounts because I sent it back because I couldn't get it to do a damn box test to save my life. And I sent it to Vortex, and the guy's like, hey, man, we put it on our scope mounting device here, and we were able to get a good box test. And I'm like, I don't believe you. And he goes, do you mind if I mount this on my own rifle and I will shoot it? And I will let you know. I said, go for it. So he had some crazy like 6mm dasher or something like that, or 6 Creedmoor. And that motherfucker shot a box test and brought it back to center. So he started at center, went down, over, shot again, up, shot again, over, shot again, down, shot again, back to the middle, and then brought it back to the center. And his first and last shot touched. And he sent me back the thing, and he goes, man, I'm telling you, you need to lap your scope rings. And I was like, all right. So I bought a lapping kit for my scope rings. And it came with a, I forget what it is, 20-something, 30 and a 34mm tube diameters. It's all 3 of like the common sizes. And I ended up lapping my scope rings. And sure enough, I did the same test he did, and I ended up touching the last 2 bullets together. And I was like, well, hot damn, it worked. It actually did track.
Man, I don't touch on enough on my channel, and I should. But when it comes to scope rings, you know, guys will buy a $1,500 scope, and they'll run to Walmart and pick up a $20 set of rings. And that doesn't make any sense. You know, it's not. You get what you pay for in optics and in the optics accessories. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to have a spur, you know, which is a really elite, expensive ring base set. You don't have to have one of those on everything. But you need a good set of rings. I mean, Vortex has some good rings. For what they cost, they have some good rings. And they're rings, $40, $50, $60. But I use, the ones that I use, man, I just really fell in love with this one particular brand, American Rifle Company. And they basically pivot, and it's kind of a clamshell. And when they come up together, there's only one bolt that goes through it. And they're matched rings all the way through production. So when you put it together, man, and you tighten it down, you can tell. I mean, as soon as it goes up together, it's almost stuck. It's so tight. I mean, not tight, but it's so straight on there. It's not at any angle. It goes up, touches the tube, and it's perfect. 180 degrees, you know. And I've had such good luck with those that I don't even use anything else, man. And I actually have a set of tier 1 rings in the closet. I'm doing a review on a tier 1 bipod, and they sent me a set of rings to ask me about them, and they're nice. But I just use American Rifle Company, man. I've got a ton of those, and they're about $180 a pair. They're not cheap, but if you change and mount scopes as much as I do, you want the really good stuff. You know,
that makes sense. I mean, you're taking them in and out,
right?
So constantly.
And the clamshell stuff, it doesn't, because it is so perfectly made and so square. It doesn't imprint the scope. Now these things take like 50 foot-pounds or inch-pounds, whatever it is. And where a normal scope ring is like, I think it's like 15 to 18 inch pounds. This thing takes like 50 to 55. I mean, you got to bear down it because it's one bolt. But even
Damn.
if you do, it doesn't affect the internals, man. It doesn't leave a mark on them. And because of the way I finance my channel, a lot of it is when I get through reviewing this scope, I'll sell it. And that's kind of helps my channel because my channel's not monetized. But like I say, that helps me on that end of it. And it's not worth it to me to buy a 40 or 30 or $40 set of rings, mount that scope on it, leave ring marks in it, and potentially damage the internal assembly. The marks on the outside is just cosmetic, but you can put some of the internal assemblies in a bind, and now as you turn the magnification, the point of impact,
Right.
Well,
so that's interesting that you're talking about that, because when I had this issue, I did a 2-part series with my Weatherby when I was getting it ready for elk hunting, and I had issues with the firing pin was seated incorrectly, which there was directions in the owner's manual on how to fix that, and then to help adjust whether or not you were going to have too deep of a primer strike or too shallow. I adjusted that. I've never had any issues. But it honestly might not have been the firing pin. It might have actually been the Hornady ammunition that I was having, because the primers were seated too deeply. And I actually sent photos to Hornady, and they said, hey, go ahead and send the box back to us and we'll send you some free ammo. I never did, though. I never sent it back to them. After I adjusted the depth of the firing pin strike, it actually was able to shoot the 2 rounds that I had out of 20 that didn't fire before. So it did work. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. But the thing is with the scope, was I was doing the lightest weight build that I could for my elk hunting rifle, and I wanted to try to get sub 6 pounds out the door, and it ended up coming in at like 6.1 pounds. But I went with these performance ultra lightweight aluminum scope rings that were separate, right? And they told me, they said, you don't need to lap these. These are perfect. These are perfectly lapped, yada, yada, yada. And then I put that Vortex scope on there, and all of a sudden I couldn't get that damn thing to track at all, and it was pinched. It was pinched because I would shoot and it would hold 0 as long as I didn't make adjustments. But I'd be like, well, damn, I need to go up 6 clicks and to the left, 8 clicks. And I'd make those adjustments, and then it'd barely move. And then I'd make more adjustments. And then all of a sudden the bullets landing like way too far to the left. So I sent the scope.
Causes that.
Right. And then I sent that back to Vortex, and Vortex is like, hey, man, we're testing your scope out. We did all this stuff. The guy shot it on his. He's like, you need to lap your rings. So then I'm calling the scope ring manufacturer, and I'm like, hey, y'all said that these don't have to be lapped. And they're like, they shouldn't have to be. It's either the scope or it's going to have to be the Weatherby rifle, in that the Picatinny rail on top of the rifle wasn't milled correctly. And there's a chance that it's throwing, the balance of the rings off, and that could potentially be it. So then I called Weatherby, and literally it kind of turned into like a Mexican standoff, where I had, the scope ring manufacturer pointing over here at Weatherby and then pointing over at Vortex, and Vortex is pointing at Weatherby and pointing back over the scope ring manufacturer, and Weatherby's pointing back and forth. So that's why I ended up buying the lapping kit. And sure enough, after I lapped it, now the damn thing tracks perfectly, and I could shoot 0.4 MOA groups with it at 100 yards. And, and I'm happy. Now, I will say, too, because this is Vortex's lightweight hunting tactical scope, I do feel like they skimped a little bit on the material of the tubing to keep it lighter weight versus having a really thick tube to cut down on the weight. And there is a chance that if the scope rings were just slightly binding, or maybe I tightened it too much, but I use a torque wrench and I never go above spec. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. And that's something that I've always wondered about with your channels. You don't really talk about lapping rings at all.
I can't. Anything on the, I can now. My channel's not monetized, but up until about 9 months ago, I couldn't, because if you did anything according to the YouTube description, that's modifying a rifle, they can demonetize your channel, or they won't let you release the video as monetized. And because I did have, my channel was monetized, and it was, you and I talked about it, it was making some decent money, and I didn't want to do stuff where it would cause it to get demonetized. And the worst thing you can do, and it's not just gun channels, We can talk about that in a minute, but the worst thing you can do is to have YouTube, especially if you've been doing it. I've been doing it a little over 7 years. Is to have them go back through your entire video catalog, because what was acceptable several years ago may not be acceptable now. Like you hear, the word transsexual or whatever it is for the trans. Okay, and I'm not being rude, but now it's like non-binary. You might call somebody trans or something like that, or gay, and they're pissed off. But several years ago, nobody thought about it. And on YouTube, there's stuff that I did that at the time were well within the rules. Now they're not. But the videos are kind of grandfathered in now. But if they go back through your channel and they find something wrong, it's like, that's got to go, that's got to go, that's got to go. And that's the reason so many of my early videos, the gunsmithing videos, are no longer there. Guys will ask me, man, what happened to this video? What happened to that video? And it's like, I had to take it down.
Right.
The rules.
Well, it's one, and honestly, talking with you, because you've helped guide me on my YouTube career, it's like, thinking about it, I've started this alternate channel, the All Are Welcome podcast channel. It's not monetized right now. It's not my primary channel. So we can have these types of conversations openly and freely. I'm not worried because I'm not going to post this on my main channel. So no. But what I'm saying though is that's a very good thing that you're talking about, is the fact that having a YouTube channel, you do have to worry about, because goddamn, what was it? It was like about a year and a half ago where YouTube came out and said, you can't even show somebody loading a magazine into the rifle. Right. You couldn't do that. I being the dark sense of humor guy that I am, and being like, okay, well, YouTube is run by a whole bunch of social justice liberals. I'm not saying anything's bad about it, but that's who they are. We know who they are. They're in San Francisco. They're in San Francisco for a reason, and that's their mentality. I was taking my videos, and when I would load a magazine in, I would put a Pornhub sticker over the magazine going into the rifle, and then as I'm loading the rifle, I would play a porno noise, and guess what? All those videos got monetized. But if I would have just showed me putting the magazine in and racking the bolt, it would have been demonetized.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's the reason on so many of mine, guys will ask me a lot. They'll see like the scope and the fixture that I tested in, or they'll see it on the gun. But it's like, show us how you mounted it. It's like, absolutely not. And then they won't allow it. As silly as that sounds, they won't allow you to mount a scope, but they err on the side. They'd rather be a lot more conservative with their thinking than liberal when it comes to guns, I guess you'd say. They're just, YouTube is there to sell tampons and throw pillows and cars and different shit like that. You see all the ads for, and what their thing is, they don't want somebody from, I don't know, say Coca-Cola. I don't know anything about Coca-Cola as a brand like that, but if there's somebody at Coca-Cola that's real anti-gun, and they see their ad running on my channel, and on my particular channel, I'm showing somebody how to, modify magazines or something like that, or put in sears and different stuff like that, they could lose a gigantic part of their income, and they're having to protect their own interests. And I get it. It's just, sometimes you get caught in the gears.
All right, Joe. So I want to ask you something after watching your drunk history of rifle scopes.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. It seems, without really introducing electronic technology with, LCD screens inside of the scope and stuff like that, or, night vision, infrared, that with just glass and maybe some illumination for the reticle, we've kind of almost peaked at what I think is scope manufacturing capabilities. But I feel like I'm wrong, because you hear stuff about, hey, this has got new coating technology, and this is HD glass, or now this is ultra HD glass. Where are we going with rifle scopes that's going to actually be improving the technology for the user? Or or have we like hit the peak of rifle scopes a while ago, and everything that we're being sold these days is just kind of a bill of goods, making you think that it's brand new?
No, I think my personal opinion is that the optical rifle scopes, the digital rifle scopes will never be as good. Okay. If you've ever been anywhere and looked through a real telescope, I'm not talking about the telescopes they sell at Oshman's or the sporting goods stores, not like that. I'm talking about a real telescope, people that are into it. You can't find it at stores. You know, big photo stores may have one. If you've ever looked through a real telescope at night, you've seen what real optics look like. Okay. Now there's, the space stuff is all done digitally. A lot of that's digital, but for them to make a digital rifle scope that'll do what an optical rifle scope will do, and I'm convinced the technology is probably there. It's so expensive nobody would buy it. Okay, I think eventually, one day, the majority of rifle scopes will all be digital.
Right.
Okay, 20, 25 years ago, you couldn't have convinced people everybody's going to have a TV that's flat. So what the hell are you talking about? Everybody told you crazy, but I think digital scopes is the future. Mm-hmm. But we're not there yet. I've tested several of them. And like on my channel, I only do optical rifle scopes. The only things I've done digital, I did one for CONUS, and it had a digital reticle in there that was pretty cool. It was a digital scope. It's actually really interesting. And you could pick 10 different reticles.
Oh, that's cool.
Button and change reticles. And it was really cool. And for what it was at its price range, it was neat. It really was. It was neat. It was interesting. Neat first step, the Bushnell Eliminator with the bullet drop built in. Sikorsky has something very similar. SIG has the one where they have the wind meter and then the rangefinder, and all of it's connected through your app on your phone and stuff. For me, that's too much. I've missed guys that sit in a deer stand. I bow hunt a lot. If you sit in a deer stand playing with your phone and you're bow hunting, you're going to miss an opportunity. There's no way around it. You have to move so purposely and so quietly, and a lot of times the deer doesn't just stop. You have to stay ready. You can't sit there and dick around and still get the shot. And I think for my type of hunting here, sitting there ranging it, taking the wind and the temperature and, everything else, it's useless for what I do here. And the majority of hunters, it's the same way. Now, if you live out west and you're shooting at a mule deer that's bedded down on the side of a hill, 700, 800, 900 yards away, whatever it is, yeah, sure. If you got time to do it there, yeah, you want every advantage you can get.
Right.
But I don't think the market is there to push the technology. I just think if they built something that was optically excellent, that had the bullet drop in it, that ranged at the same time, that you could, you probably had to do a lot of it on your phone. I think if somebody built something like that, it would be in the tens of thousands of dollars if it was reliable and it was optically really good. It would take so much money, man. I'm not saying they can't do it, but there's not people aren't going to buy it. You know?
I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts on this because, like we were talking about before this all started, I had a company out of Hong Kong reach out to me. I believe they're called One Leaf. I'm not advocating for them yet. I haven't done the scope review. They sent me it's like a 1:52 digital zoom scope that's got a 4K Sony Bravita, sensor inside of it. And it also does moonlight. It does daylight, moonlight, and full night vision. Mm-hmm. And it has a 4K recording capability in it. I'm very excited to actually get the ability to start recording me shooting at a target. Hopefully it's quality. They sent me, they said, hey, listen, if you're filming during the day, go ahead and shoot at like 4K, but if you're filming at night and you're using the night vision, shoot it at like 1080p, right? Like there is, and they are honest. I don't know exactly what it is. I'll have to go back and look at the email, but It's heavy. I mean, we were talking about the box that it came in. It feels like a brick. And we were joking about before it came, putting it on my wife's rifle. That weighs almost as much as her Rough Tech Light rifle from Tika. So we're not going to be doing that. Also, too, in Colorado, you are not allowed to use an electronic scope for hunting. So that's going to be interesting. So if you end up seeing some prairie dog hunting videos on my channel, and it looks like I'm filming with the rifle scope, it's just a camera that's mounted where the rifle scope would be. You know what I mean? So, but I was hoping to be able to do some coyote hunting out here at night. And even in Colorado, they're like, you can't use infrared or night vision to hunt predators at night unless you own land and you've reported to Colorado Parks and Wildlife that there is predators that are affecting your livestock. And that's the only way that you could get permission to use infrared or night vision. Another reason why I'm looking to buy some land. I'm going to get chickens, and all of a sudden every coyote is going to be a threat to my chickens. But also taking that back even further to like back in the late 90s, early 2000s when digital cameras came out. I remember I was doing professional photography, and at that time we were using only film. It was Nikon and Canon cameras, single lens reflex cameras with big lenses, and we would carry around pockets full of film, and we had to get it, developed. Like this photo back there, I took that in Mesquite, Texas, and that was taken with film. And for a long time, digital photography was nowhere near as good as film, and people were pushing it. Everybody had digital cameras because of the convenience, and then digital cameras came out on cell phones, and everybody was like, man, this is the way of the future. And finally, I remember it took a long time for the digital camera to actually catch up and be able to produce an image that was as good as film. But now we're at a place where a digital camera is, you don't even want to look at a film photo anymore compared to like a good digital camera. It's gotten to the point now where you can't print a high-end digital print where the print is going to look as good as it does on a really, nice 8K, 12K screen that's got all this crazy depth of field. Because now we've got not only the digital processors on the sensors that are so high tech, we now have digital screens. Like you were talking about a flat screen TV. Nobody would have thought about that 25 years ago. But now we've gotten such good depth of color and contrast and light range. You can't print something that's going to look as good as it does on a really high-end screen that was taken with the really high-end camera. And I think you're right. I think in the future, we will be going to digital cameras, not digital cameras, but digital rifle scopes. But it's going to be, the price is going to have to drop dramatically, because I think, like you said, the price would be so high right now to make something that was as good as a really high-end optical that nobody would want to buy it. And then if nobody wants to buy it, then you're not going to get a company that's going to want to invest in the technology. And then go ahead.
The chips and stuff like that. If Sony's going to order 100,000 chips, and your scope company, you want 100 of these? Yeah, man. One day, if we're just shut down, nothing going on, And that's the thing on like you were talking about. It's got a Sony Bravia chip in it, but it's not the latest one. You can believe that.
Yeah. No.
If Sony, Samsung, and Apple decided to do it, it'd be easy. They could do it. And there's a lot of other manufacturers that could do the same thing. But there's no reason to. If there was a market for it, they'd be doing it. If there was a market for what they're going to be priced at, they'd be doing it. A good example, the Burris Eliminator, for guys that haven't played with it, it looks kind of like a Pringles can, like an old telescope. And they're actually really cool, and they're neat to play with and stuff. And it does, calculates your trajectory and everything, shows you aiming points, and it was way ahead of its time. But actually, away from the trade show, away from going to a sporting goods store and seeing one on a shelf, I've never seen one. In the wilds, I've never seen one. And the majority of the people that know about it can say the same thing. It's not something. Right. A neat concept, but it's like I don't know. 80-inch TV is not a good comparison anymore, but back when, a really super high-end plasma television, some of those things got up around $20,000. Well, I know a guy that bought one, and everybody was just in awe of this thing when they saw it. Now, you can go to Walmart and buy a television with more resolution, a lot better contrast, and it doesn't glare like that, for $1,000. And eventually the price will come down to where it'll happen. I would have thought, honestly, I thought by the end of maybe the 2020s, maybe going into like 2030, that it might happen. But with COVID, the chip shortage and everything else, I think it set it back probably at least another decade before they'll take over. I mean, it could be. I don't think I'll live long enough to see, and I plan on being here for a while, but I don't think I'll see digital scopes overtake optical scopes. Now, I could be wrong, but I think it's a long ways off in the future. I really do. And like, kind of like every time I hear about the electric cars, and I've driven the electric cars, they're a blast, man. They accelerate so fast and stuff. But like where I live just outside of a town with 100,000 residents, and there's no infrastructure to charge an electric car. Within the last year, just within the last year, is the first time I've ever been to a gas station, and I think it was in Georgia. I don't remember. Maybe it was Ohio. I don't remember. I traveled a lot, but that was the first time I've ever been to a gas station and they had electric charging place at the gas station. And when the gas stations have electric chargers everywhere, yeah, sure. But like for me personally, my wife and I, we were looking at buying an electric car. We really were. The furthest she ever drives is about, her brother's house is about 300 miles away. Well, most of them, they might have a 300-yard range, but it won't quite get there.
Right.
And there's not, like, from where I live, this is no lie. You can go on there, look at Tesla. It doesn't matter which one it is. You're going to leave this part of Texas and go to Salt Lake City with an electric car. It better be on a trailer. You literally cannot do it. Right. There's places, there's not enough chargers. And I think eventually all the cars will be electric, but it's a long ways down the road. There's so many things stopping it. And
they gotta come out with better battery technology, because we just saw in Chicago where they were having them sub-zero temperatures, and at that Tesla charging station in Chicago, and the charging station couldn't charge the cars. The batteries weren't taking charges, and a guy was like, "I've been sitting on this charger for 3 hours, and I'm still at 0% battery." And so that's a big thing too. Is they're going to have to develop better batteries, and just like you said, you're going to have charging stations at gas stations. Like gas stations aren't going to go away.
Yeah. And I think, for me, like with the cars, I think the hybrid, not the plug-in hybrids, but the kind that generate electricity with the brakes, I think that's a good compromise for me right now. This is my personal opinion. And I think a lot of the scope companies are doing where it's an optical scope, but inside of it, they can superimpose, a light for the distance and stuff. I think that's a good compromise, and I think that'll pacify it for a long time before they actually go fully digital, man. Because there's not. Yeah,
a big thing too, though, is Joe. We got to look at like states like Colorado, and it's not just Colorado; it's a lot of other states too that say you can't use an electronic scope for hunting. Right. And so until states, and I get like the fear behind it, which is we don't want to allow hunters to have an unfair advantage. But realistically, if a hunter is actually lucky enough to come across an elk, a deer, a ram, a bighorn sheep in the wild, you should want them to have the absolute best gear possible to take an animal and be the most successful with that shot. And if that means a lot, but
everything forever, there's so many people out there that are looking at, and a lot of stuff like here in Texas is geared towards, we don't want to give guys at night where they can go out there in these big open fields and give them a way to shoot deer down. Like in Texas, suppressors are hard to get. Now they have the silencer shop. You can do it directly. But up until the last couple of years, when I was growing up, I wanted a suppressor bad for a 22. That's all, just a 22, and just so I could shoot it in my backyard. Got a huge dirt bank to shoot into, but it's too loud to shoot in a settled area. To be able to get a suppressor, I had to have somebody with direct felony jurisdiction over me to sign it. And then a judge still had to approve it, and it still had to go to ADF. Now the silencer shop is getting a lot easier, and I think suppressors will be across the counter before there will be digital scopes, because
Right.
like at our range now, the one I go to, it's a public range.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that show up. They have a maximum on the size of the caliber because it's fairly close to settled area. So I think it's like 338 is the biggest caliber you can have. But the majority of the guys that come out there with 30 calibers have a suppressor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're so obnoxiously loud, and guys that get used to, like, I shoot rimfires a lot. If I'm at the range shooting for my YouTube channel, filming videos, and up comes 5 guys and they've all got 16.5-inch ARs with brakes on them, I'm loading. I'm not going to sit there. I don't care how many muffs, how much of this. I'm not going to sit there and listen to that noise. It's just too much noise. I can't stand it. Now, if somebody's got a 300 Weatherby and they're zeroing it, checking, verifying everything. Yeah, man, do your thing. I'll put my muffs and stuff on. We're good. But stuff that's just, there's a lot of guys that, the noise is just, the complaint around rifle ranges is not straight bullet. It's the noise. The noise is always the complaint. It's the noise. It's the noise. It's the noise.
Yeah. And, I think we've all been at the range and been next to the dude that's got like a 300 PRC with the tank brake. And, it's sending concussion waves back at you.
Right.
And now the funny thing that you mentioned, that I was just looking on my phone to look up one of my friends. He's in the UK. He's one of the few people that I know in the UK that actually has a license to have not just a 22, but also like a semi-automatic, not a semi-automatic, but an actual center fire rifle. And he's a professional hunter. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but over in the UK, they don't have predators. So they have a massive amount of foxes and they have a massive amount of rabbits. And so he goes into the countryside professionally and shoots them. And we've had a conversation about it. And he says it's hilarious to him at how easy it is in the United States to go and get a firearm. But once you've gotten the firearm, how difficult it is to actually get an accessory for it. And because he was like, once you have a firearm license in the UK, you can pretty much go anywhere that you want. You could go to other parts of Europe and walk into a gun store and just buy a silencer over the counter. There's no waiting.
Yeah, they sell them like flashlights there.
Right.
I think once a couple of the larger states, like here in Texas, it was this close to going through. About 3 years ago, and there was a school shooting. Okay. Immediately, all that got shelved. It's like, who's going to push for to loosen any gun restrictions right after a school shooting? Be political suicide. But it was this close to seriously was fixing to get voted in. As long as it was manufactured in Texas, we didn't have to have a stamp. And that's exactly what was fixing to happen. And I think once one state gets it going like that, it's going to be like the marijuana laws. They're just going to tumble in.
Right.
I think that's what happened with suppressors. But getting back to the digital rifle scopes, I think until the time comes that, like, the majority of the people update their phones very regularly. Their tablets, computers, this stuff don't last as long anyway. But after a while, they start running slower and stuff. Everybody's, got noticed what the deal is with technology. Until the time comes that they can make the parts in excess for this stuff, I don't think it'll ever trickle down to rifle scopes. It's got a long ways off. But, it's going to be such small, hell, Samsung comes out they come out with a new, Samsung Ultra 24. They're not ordering 10,000 of them. They're ordering millions of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe tens of millions if it's a new iPhone. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but it's insane, the numbers. And the numbers for sporting optics are not there. You can't compete with that.
Right.
And even, I don't know if guys have priced what a new,
Well,
phone is, but $1,000 won't touch one now.
right. Facts. Well, all right. So let me ask you. We're going to go back to the beginning of this segment, which was, are scopes actually getting better, or are scope manufacturers just selling us a bill of goods? And I think this question to you will give a definitive answer to that, which you've already given a great answer, but this will give the definitive answer. And I don't think it's arguable. As somebody that reviews scopes professionally for a living, and you're probably one of the top scope reviewers out there.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's not subjective. That's an objective statement. My question for you, though, is: are there older scopes made by older scope manufacturers, or just older models, that inside of like the elite scope, I don't know, connoisseur rings, where people are like, oh shit, this scope, this 1999 Zeiss or Swarovski or Leopold, or scope is like a 56 Chablis. It's like, this is like the crown jewel. Or is it realistically going to be, hey, the best scope that you're going to be able to get is the one that's coming out next year?
Well, there's basically, or in my mind, there's 4 price levels of scopes. There's the Walmart, eBay, Amazon, cheapest thing you can find scope. Okay, those are more toys than they are or they might be good for a season or two. I wouldn't want to have a hunt on it. Then there's the budget scopes, say $500 or under. The scopes that go between about close to $1,000 to maybe $2,000, and then there's the elite stuff. Throw the elite stuff out. For the $500, honestly, what a $500 scope can get you optically now, compared to what a $500 scope was when I was a teenager, it's not a fair comparison, because that $500 then would be about $2,500 now. The $2,500 scope now is by far better. The coatings that they use now last longer. If you can find a vintage Zeiss, Collis, Smith Bender, one of the older ones, if you'll look at it and you take it and hold it in the right light, you'll see that there's places on the coatings that have worn through.
Okay.
And a lot of that is Windex. You put Windex on a scope, on the older scopes, you run it. It'll eventually start eating the coatings off, and over time they just they go away. Mm-hmm. And but it's not like we talked about cameras. If you've got a vintage Canon L series lens Mark I, it's worth as much now as it was when it was new, because with the lenses on cameras, they're just going insane. How fast they're getting expensive is insane. And I mean, something that was maybe $1,000 4 or 5 years ago is several $1,000s now. Like I say, it's insane how quick the price is going up, and it's like, if you want to play, you got to pay. Phones the same way,
right?
But with the top end rifle scopes, and I think the budget scope is built out of the cheapest shit they can lay their hands on. Like I say, take that out of it. I think across the board they're better, and the main reason being, everything is done by computers. And I'm not saying computers are better than hand built. I don't mean it like that. But the specs are tighter.
Right.
They build in such large quantities now, where before, if say when Lyman was in business, and this is when companies were building their own scopes, and they would build, okay, let's build 100 of these, if you got in that 100 batch, you've got something that's bad. Okay, you lost 1% of your income. If this one's bad, we have to scrap it. You lost 1%. Everyone you lost, if it was 100, you lost 1%.
Damn.
If you're ordering 10,000 scopes from Light Optical Works, and they end up scrapping some of them, no big deal. You don't pay for it. They have to eat that. So it's in their interest to make sure these things meet specs, because they're the ones that's going to have to eat it because they're going to replace it. All these vendors that have problems with scopes, and don't get me wrong, a lot of them, in the US, you can just send it back, they'll send you another one. But if it's a scope, say that Light Optical Works built for one of these companies, and they built a lot of the $1,500 to $2,000 scopes, and it's truly a problem. Okay, Light's got to replace it, so it's in their interest to make sure it's right. It's not that they're, man, they're the greatest company in the world. It's in their interest to make sure it's right. They don't want to have to do that. So it's kind of like transmissions on cars. Are the automatic transmissions better now? Oh, hell yeah. But it's not because they want to make it better. There's a term, I can't remember, in manufacturing. You want to make things good, but only good to a certain point. You don't want to build a light bulb that lasts about, 200 years.
Oh yeah. That's, you're talking about when the light bulb manufacturers back in the early 1900s all got together and said, hey, industry standard for light bulbs is too good. These aren't burning out. We need to come up with an industry standard that will make it so they only last a certain amount of time. And each one of the light bulb manufacturers had to submit their light bulbs that they made for testing. And if the light bulb was too good, that company would get fined. And that was that. Yeah.
There's a firehouse here in Texas that's got a light bulb in there. It's been running 24/7 for over 100 years.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm serious, man. You can look it up online. It's hanging from a wire. It's just a little bullshit ass town, little bit thing. But it's some light bulb company. They went out of business. There's a reason that, guys will get a new tablet, a new computer, and they're amazed how fast it is. 2 or 3 years later, it's slow. It's going a lot slower. Now, part of it is because you may have played with somebody else's higher end and saw what the was. But like right now, I've got 2 iPad Pros. One of them is a terabyte. The other one's, I don't remember how many, 256, something like that. They're expensive, man. They both have M1 chips in them. Okay. When I first got them, I was amazed. I could edit on it, put as many layers as I could, and not even it never even hiccup. They won't do that now. They don't work that fast now. Now, I borrowed a buddy of mine's newest iPhone that doesn't have all this crap, doesn't have a bunch of time in it, and brought it home, or not phone, iPad. It worked like a charm, but I know the same thing's going to happen to it over the next couple of years. And they want it. You can't build it perfect and have it last forever because you only get to sell it one time. So optics are a little bit different because you want something that you can put on that gun and it stays there forever. Right. But because the majority of the people out there, like say if you went and bought, you've got one deer rifle, you're going to hunt with it forever. You buy one really good scope. Right. Okay. There has to be enough profit for them in that scope because they know once you put that scope on there, you're through scope shopping. You're done with it. And a lot of guys that are other YouTubers, my channel's a good example. They're amazed by, okay, you've got, however many views or however much this, and it seems lopsided. But the thing is, a lot of my stuff is reviews. Well, if you're not in the market rifle scope, you're not going to find my channel. And a lot of people buy one scope. It's kind of like me with cars. Usually I buy my cars, I drive them till the wheels fall off. Well, right. I'm not looking at reviews on cars. I just bought a car. I don't need to look at car reviews anymore. So there's no reason for me to subscribe. I go in there, one thing that I want, and I leave. And for the optics makers, that happens a lot. That's the reason a lot of guys get perturbed about so much stuff being directed towards the precision shooters. They have a bigger say than the hunters. Right. They're buying multiple scopes and they're buying them all the time. The hunters buy one scope. Well, and I think it never moves again.
Right, and that's I think the reason why I wanted to ask you that question that I did ask you is, are scopes actually getting better, or are we just being sold a bill of goods? But it sounds like they really are. Now that I think about it too, I've got some stuff from like the 90s, and the scope was like $200 back in the 90s, but now that'd probably be like a $700-800 scope. And if I compare that to like a $500 scope that I buy now, that $500 scope that I buy now is better than that $200 scope that I would have bought back then, $250 scope back then. So you're right. The technology is definitely getting better, but it makes sense with what you're saying, because scopes and hunting rifles, or hunting rifles and hunting scopes, are supposed to be heirloom items, right?
Right.
They're heirloom items. It's supposed to be something that you get and you take care of, and then you pass it down to your family, and when you pass away, and then they take care of it, right? And granted, it's like I've got my grandpa's Winchester Model 12 that's from like the 1950s, I think, or 60s, 1950s. It's a pump action 12 gauge shotgun. It's got an adjustable choke on it that I absolutely love. But is it as good as, like, if I were to go and buy a Benelli right now? No, absolutely not. Or a Beretta? Absolutely not. But I love the damn thing. And that brings up another thing too, is since you do hunt, and do you have wooden stocks, or have you gone full composite or carbon fiber on your rifles?
Everything I have has wood on it. I'm sucker for wood. All my hunting rifles have wood. Now, they all have scars, from hunting, but I'm sitting there thinking, everything has wood. I don't have anything with a metal chassis. I don't have anything with a synthetic stock of any kind. But the reason is probably different from other people. Here in Texas, we hunt out of deer stands. We have elevated stands. We put corn out. Hope to hell something comes to the corn, because you can stand anywhere in the timber and you can't see 40 yards in any direction. It's too thick.
Right.
You're not going to sneak up on nothing. There's no way. It's impossible to stalk in this area. So you're having to wait for the animals to come to you, and it's just a waiting game. So, Canary. Shit, I forgot what the question was, dude. I'm sorry, my dog was up.
We were just talking about wooden stocks versus composite stocks. And okay, go ahead, Canary.
But the reason I don't use composites or the synthetic stocks is because we sit there for so long. I mean, you literally are just, it's like going outdoors when it's cold. You're just sitting there. If it's misty, you're cold. If it's cold, you're cold. And you pick up one of those synthetic stocks or a chassis, lay that sucker against your cheek. Holy shit, it's cold. It's like sitting there with a block of ice.
Right.
A lot of times, because the deer are coming through the woods and they're not in a hurry, they're just out there picking along, and you may sit there with that gun up against your face, for several minutes or maybe 30 minutes, and a metal chassis or a composite stock. Oh man, those things are cold as a corpse. Wood's not that cold, and and I just I'm old, man. I like wood. I wish I could afford good wood on everything. I've got a couple with nice wood. But I just like wooden stocks, man. There's just something about it, and
it totally, to me, it's like it's from, what is that, Full Metal Jacket? This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one's mine. And I feel like when you have a wooden stock rifle, especially a nice grained walnut or something like that, it's unique, it's yours, and it's beautiful.
I've got a 64 Model 70 back there. It was nothing special, just regular A model or whatever it was, in 30-06. Well, it was built probably 50s, something like that. And it's got an old Leupold on top of it. And it was when the Leupold turrets had a little piece of metal in there that pushed into the turret itself was grooved. It wasn't done that internally. It was done externally.
Oh, wow.
Over the years, the whole thing has started freckling and turning that real pretty plum color. Ooh. Well, the scope turned like that, the rings and the rifle, and they've all turned at the same time. And because the scope's never been moved, it literally looks like that scope has been on there the entire time, and it's just beautiful because of the patina on it. But you don't get. That's not the kind of thing you get with a synthetic rifle. A synthetic rifle is, it's a cutting torch, man. It's not an art brush. It's just, there's nothing about a synthetic rifle. And probably my favorite gun right now by far, if guys ever seen my channel, is my Rednecks. And there's nothing romantic about it. It's just.
Is that your green one? Is that your green chassis one?
Yeah. But I've got the Anschutz, and the Remex will outshoot the Anschutz. It's not nearly, the Anschutz is picky as hell. About every 75 shots, I get a light primer strike, but it's got a beautiful piece of wood on it, and it's got a real pretty. The bluing has started to age and patina, and I like it. There's something about that I like. 50 years from now, nobody's going to know what a 2016 Volkswagen Touareg looked like, but they're going to know what a 57 Chevy looks like.
Good car.
There's certain things that are just have a certain style and just a classic to it. And I've owned several Ruger number ones. I like fallen black single shots. I probably own 30 or 40 different fallen black single shots from guns that right now literally I could buy a really nice used car for what they call some of those one of those cars, and right now they'd probably worth $25,000. But
right,
I had a Han single shot. I had a whatever it was, the Haas Miller single shot. Any of those right now you could trade for a good Chevrolet truck, with 50,000 miles on it. But at the time, you don't know what you don't know,
right.
But I've had some really nice ones, man. And I like fallen block single shots because there's something about it, and they're not as accurate as bolt action rifles. So you need to get a little closer. It's kind of the gun equivalent of bow hunting. You need to get a little closer. You need to be really sure about the shot, because if you shoot and he flips around out there and he gets to his feet, you can't get it loaded in time.
Yeah.
If you got him in the you can't get that follow-up shot. So you need to
have you seen that video that's making the rounds on YouTube right now? It's a short. I should have shared it with you, but it's a dude's in the woods and there's a deer that's like 30 yards away from him, and the dude has a flintlock rifle, and he goes through the full process of reaming the ramrod and getting everything ready, and he shoots that flintlock and huge puff of smoke, and he shot the damn deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing, and everybody's talking about. They're like, if I even fart and a deer's within 500 yards, it's gone. And this dude's sitting out there doing the ramrod, you know what I mean? Cocking the big flintlock back, Oh man, it's just
guys ask me. And I've never talked about this on a podcast or live stream, but a lot of guys ask where I first got my interest in scopes. And I'd like to say I've never talked about it here or on a video or anything. So,
well, I feel privileged. Thank you.
Well, my first interest in scopes, man, honest to God, I was probably 18 or 19 years old. A scope was a scope. If it had a crosshair in it, good enough. Kill a deer, it aims at the deer, the deer's dead. I had the old Weaver 4-powers. That's what I used. You could just get them in there. They were by far probably the biggest selling scope of all time, And they made it forever. They were made out of, the one I had, like I say, they had a patina and stuff on them. They were old as hell. But after a while, they leak, and the gas gets out of them. And you have to be careful because they actually had a wire reticle in it, and they would, get rusty, damp, and break, But I had one, and it all of mine leaked a little bit. So if I was going hunting, I had to leave my gun outside, because if you brought it in from inside out,
it'd fog up.
It would fog up. So anyway, I was hunting, and at the time, it was a good buck. It wasn't the biggest buck I ever shot or anything, but it was a nice buck. And it was cold, man. And I mean, cold for anywhere, not just East Texas cold. It was cold. And I was sitting in a ground blind, and we just built up some brush. And I was leaning over my gun like this, and I was, kind of balled up, trying to stay warm. My gun was underneath me, underneath the jacket, and I'm just sitting there all balled up. And I realized that scope's going to fog up if it, gets warm. So I let the gun sit out here, and the scope got, cold back off. You can see through it. Everything's good. And I'm sitting there leaning, man. And I mean, it is incredibly cold. And looked up, and a buck walked out, and man, he was not 25 or 30 yards from me.
Wow.
I gun up, and when I did, I couldn't, because my breath was hitting the scope, and I couldn't see him. I mean, couldn't see him at all. So the scope had fogged up so badly, I knew point and shoot or let him walk, Well, like I say, he was like 25, 30 yards. I've shot deer with shotguns that far, just look at the little bead. And I didn't, wasn't thinking about it. When you're looking down the side of a scope, you're actually looking down the side, so you're going to miss this way. I raised that 30-06 up, man, pulled the trigger, and he just raised his head and looked around. Like he didn't have like he'd never heard it. Like the deer was deaf.
Really?
At the time, yeah, man. At the time, that gun had 6 rounds in it. 1 in the barrel, 5 in the magazine. I sat there and shot all 6 rounds, never touched him, and he just put his head down and went right back to eating. I'm sitting there, I ain't got a bullet left. And I can't hit him because there's no
wow.
I can't see through the scope. And I mean, all this happened, man. And, I was telling my cousins to them about it, and they think I'm crazy, but it's like, dude, I'm telling you, he stood right there. And I don't know if it was a matter of, it was so close to him, he couldn't tell what, or maybe he wasn't hearing anything else, or maybe the deer was hard of hearing. Like I say, that would be, unless it was deaf for some reason. But I sat there and emptied the gun, never touched him, and just sat there and watched him eat till he walked off. And after that, it was like, these little, $50 scopes from Gibson's and Walmart. That was the Texas version of Walmart, Gibson's.
Right.
And these little things from the hardware store and stuff, screw this. Never again. Never again. I ain't doing that again. And I never bought another cheap scope. Now, they haven't all been winners, but that bottom shelf scope, no, man. I'd rather drink bottom shelf bourbon than do that.
Yeah, but, dude, that's wild. That's how you got into it. I remember, what was that old John Wayne movie where like his boys are out with him and they're on the side of a mountain and they see a deer, and the one son had showed up with a rifle that had a scope on it, and they'd never seen a scope, and they wanted the deer, and the son pulls his rifle out, and I think it was John Wayne. Maybe one of the viewers would know, or the listeners. And he's like, you can't hit that deer. That deer's 200 yards away, and he's not using irons. He's using it's like a 4-time magnification scope, and, rests it like over the back of the horse or something like that, if I remember correctly. And he shoots the deer, and like, I was like, man, that's wild to think about, thinking about like your drunk history of rifle scopes, what that would have been like for people back to actually use a rifle scope too versus iron sights, because they using those old rifle scopes on like the old 45-70s to take buffalo at like really far range.
Right. And part of the reason they were used though, man, was, part of it was to get more accuracy, you know, and, but a big part of it was, if you've ever seen those flip up, rear sights,
right.
Front sights are already real tall. They got to flip up rear sights, and they kept them as far apart as they could to give them the most accuracy. The trade-off is the range is real limited, where if the sights were closer together, you could make it shoot 1,000 yards. But because they're so far apart to get the accuracy, and they couldn't do it. And a lot of what was done with rifle scopes originally was so they could shoot further. It wasn't so much, of course, they wanted accuracy. But a lot of it, man, was because they could shoot further and still be able to aim, and not just, there's a man, I'm maxed out, I'm going to hold, 30 foot over his back. They're actually able to aim, know where they could hit anything, that just who the hell knows.
Right.
But, I wouldn't want anybody shooting at me with one of them. But like I say, there's a lot of stuff with scopes. I made that little funny drunk history one, and you've seen it. I hope some of the viewers will see it too. And I was real tickled about it, but it has nothing to do with rifle scopes. See, one and only thing in there, and I actually edited it out that was true, was the fact that, and I didn't know this until I got ready to make this video, man. The first rifle scope was built in 1776, believe it or not.
1776.
1776. I would have thought it was like the late 1800s.
Yeah, I would have too.
Yeah, that's when the first rifle scope was made, 1776. And that really blew my mind. Like I say, I'd have thought, I don't, some of the, towards the end of the old West and stuff like that they had them, but I didn't think, Revolutionary War, that's when they came up with rifle scopes. But yeah, that's when they first started making them, man.
That's wild. I just learned something today, so thank you for that, Joe. That's wild, man. 1776.
if you watch my history of rifle scopes, you will learn absolutely nothing. You'll see a professional bullshitter bullshitting. That's all.
Brother, I thought I was having a stroke when I watched that, man. I was like, I can't understand anything. Do I smell toast? Ah!
Well, if any of the guys have ever seen those videos about the turbo encapsulator.
Right. Oh, yeah.
There's like years. Anyway, that's where I got it. I went on there, and that turbo encapsulator, man, the first time I seen that, man, I thought I was going to die laughing, man. That was just so hilarious. And the dude that did, not the original, but there's a remake with this slender white guy, and he's standing next to this big machine with throw levers. And I actually met that guy, man. He came to our factory, did a safety. He was doing safety films. And he showed that turbo encapsulator. And this is way back when it was on films and stuff. And he showed us that, man. It tickled the shit out of us. Well, I always, it wasn't until just a while back I saw it on YouTube and saw all those words. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to apply that to rifle scope. I just threw some, optical terms in there and made it my own and stuff. But
it's great.
The outtakes, I think, are about a minute and a half. The video itself, I think, is actually 2 minutes. My Canon camera at 30 minutes times out. I had to restart it. So it took me over 30 minutes to get it done because I was stopping and laughing. And I was just so tongue-tied, man, trying to say all those big words because guys that listen to me can tell I've got a very limited vocabulary, And
man.
Third generation in my family to walk upright, So I told people, man, my grandparents, they used to communicate with grunts and clicks, So, granddad's name was that was his first name, So,
man, dude, I'm crying.
That was a fun video to make. Those Hitler parody videos, man, I really get a kick out of those. And I actually have another one of those done. And I think on the YouTube part of it, man, I think, and you and I have talked about this, if you have a channel and it stays focused, the more laser focused you are, the better served the audience is. Because YouTube's not about the guy making it, it's about the people that get to watch it. If you help somebody, train somebody. But for me, I've been doing it so long, man, and there's only so many ways you can do a scope video.
Right.
You do about 400, 500, 600 of them. You pretty well, and don't get me wrong, I've got a good technique down, man. I've got all my, as far as getting the footage, and, how to edit it and stuff, I've got all that down pat. Mm-hmm. But I need some other stuff just to break up the monotony. And because I'm not really worried about the size of my audience now, where I used to be, because I was, wanting to make an impression on these manufacturers and the retailers and stuff. And, you and I talked about it. When I hit 100,000 subscribers, and it took me about 6.5 years. Mm-hmm. And when I hit 100,000 subscribers, it was kind of like, it just took that took the gloves off me. Because all of these manufacturers, when I would reach out to them, it's like, holler at us when you get 100,000 subs. Holler at us when you get 100,000 subs. And once I got 100,000 subs, it's like, okay. Because a lot of these companies would see some of the bullshit I do on my channel. They're like, hell no, we're not working with you. But the more subscribers you have a little more leverage, I guess you'd say. And
right.
So, it's like, okay, well, maybe you didn't want to deal with this dumb shit earlier. But, and there are still companies like that, man, that I can call them up right now. And I'm going to go out to eat with these guys, man, sit around, drink beer, laugh all day long, hang out with them. Cytron was like that. And just the best group of dudes in the world and make some fantastic scopes. Mm-hmm. But they don't want their name brand associated with my brand of humor, talking about midgets and cocaine and, that kind of shit. They don't want to be associated with that. And that's at the same time as a YouTuber, it's like, dude, I'm not asking you to walk you down the aisle.
Right.
I'm just asking for your scopes, because guys are asking me, hey, man, will you test the scope? We want to see it. It's like, dude, I'm not looking to put a patch on my jersey or nothing else. That stuff doesn't mean nothing to me.
Have you ever actually had like a scope manufacturer become so repulsed with, let's say, your sense of humor? Like you and I both have pretty dark sense of humor, but have you ever actually had somebody that like was like, hey man, do not do not review our products on your channel because we don't want to see it on there.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
A good example, man. By far the largest air gun vendor in the U.S. is Pyramid Air.
Okay.
They sell more air guns and more air gun related stuff than anybody. The guy that's the general manager of Pyramid Air, Tyler Patner, man, we're just like this. The dude that owns Pyramid Air, Val, I got to hang out with him this last year in Ohio. Just a great dude. Well, I did a video for him for the Airgun Depot. They had like kind of two, one on the East Coast, West Coast type thing, but it's the same company. And I did a video for him, and it was a break barrel air gun. Well, it was real hard to like break it, but then it was real smooth when you got ready to do it. So in the video, I wasn't thinking, man, I talk like I talk, And anyway, I said, it's kind of hard. You kind of have to bump it to break it loose. And then when you cock it, it goes down like a good girlfriend. Well, I just said this shit, man. I wasn't thinking anything about it. So I uploaded the video, and I sent it to one of the guys, and he was half watching it, And anyway, it wasn't like I was, screaming and cussing and stuff like this. He just didn't catch that. Well, I upload the video, it goes public. So the next morning, I'm sleeping in. My videos go public on Saturday morning. So the next Saturday morning.
Oh God, man. Oh, that's too good. That's too good.